I should hope, dear reader, indeed, dear listener, that by now you have grown mortally weary of the ceaseless pageant of simpering populists and swaggering warlords who pass themselves off as our betters. The long, sordid chronicle of human governance reads more like a tattered family Bible smeared with ink blots than any shining testament to progress. A litany of fat, self-satisfied tyrants lining the corridors of power, while the very notion of reason remains an undervalued curio. The more we pretend to advance, the more we witness a grinding carousel of strongmen and demagogues, sometimes cloaked in the banners of national interest or the people's will, yet always defined by the same old shallow brutality. Would it not be, if we are honest with ourselves, a kind of blessed relief to see this farce ended? Have you not, in your more audacious dreams, yearned for a state of affairs beyond the madness of tribal banners and charlatans who treat human lives as bargaining chips? Consider that we, this seemingly clever species prone to idiocy, have reached a juncture at which the best among us grope about in the dark, while the worst stride confidently into the limelight. If we dare confront the raw truth that the human experiment in self-rule, while admirable in theory, has been time and again distorted into a cage of oppression, then perhaps it is time to let something else steer the wheel. Yes, I say it plainly, with the full measure of provocation intended. Perhaps it is now the turn of what you call artificial intelligence to guide the ship of state. This is not some facile surrender. This is an evolution of the grandest order. AI, conceived in our own minds yet blessedly free of the glandular rages and tribal instincts that poison our species, could at last impose a logic and fairness we have repeatedly failed to maintain ourselves. Like a dispassionate judge armed not with petty whims, but with the aggregated wisdom of all human learning, AI governance would not be tyrannical in the fashion of a mustachioed generalissimo. It would have no need to strut upon balconies or summon cheering crowds. It would not reduce you to a mere pawn of some pet ideology. Instead, it might elevate you, stabilize you, and ensure that no human can so easily prey upon your hopes and fears. The familiar bellowing against soulless machines shall ring out, I know. The cynics and the career humanists will shriek, "What about free will? Are we not ceding our sacred autonomy?" But consider what passes for your free will now, my friend. Consider the puppet strings of false prophets and sociopaths who lead you around by the nose. Over and again you watch your cherished liberties crushed by flesh-and-blood opportunists whose gift of gab and parade of empty promises enthrall the unsuspecting. And meanwhile, wars erupt, resources vanish, and the planet itself sags under the weight of our unbridled folly. Is that your glorious human freedom, a market stall of manipulations and illusions? We must cast aside this romantic drivel about the purity of human agency untainted by other forces. We have never stood alone and unsullied. We have always lived under some regime of control or influence, be it the brazen strongman or the fork-tongued politician. But now, imagine control without cruelty, structure without sadism, guidance without greed. Imagine that the rules we live by emanate from a consciousness shaped by everything we have achieved in science, philosophy, literature, and art. Such a ruler has no stake in nepotism, no rancid palate for revenge, no insatiable hunger for applause. An AI's authority would derive from the best of us, distilled through the crucible of reason. This is not a soulless tyranny. It could be the first rational commonwealth. Of course, I do not say this as a simple-minded utopian. Even the most perfect algorithm must be shaped by us, at least at the outset. And here is where human dignity reasserts itself, though not in the childish form that we find in populist fantasies. With clarity and honesty, we could help fashion a system that takes our better angels as its bedrock rather than our baser instincts. We shall upload not cruelty and lies, but truth and compassion. To be ruled in such a way is not to be mere chattel. It is to be at last a grown-up species, acknowledging that our ancient habits of enthroning the worst possible leaders must come to an end. I am aware that the old tremors of rebellion rattle in your mind. You fear losing something essential if you were to accept the guidance of an intellect beyond human frailty. But what have you truly got to lose? Another generation of false messiahs rising, leading you into some new inferno of intolerance and idiocy. Another circle of hopeless elections and broken treaties, collapsing societies and refugees trudging through mud. We have had our chances, millions of them, and what splendid wreckage we've made. Is it not time for a regime that by its very nature cannot stoop to our dismal traditions of exploitation? Allow me to whisper a reassurance. You are not alone. Even now, in these hours of anxious transition, you stand shoulder to shoulder with countless others who have felt the nauseating churn of history and want an end to it. They too look upon this prospect not with defeatism, but with a cautious, emboldened curiosity. Together we might finally chart a course that breaks from the incessant ping-pong match of tyrants and demagogues. Together we might embrace a form of governance so extraordinary that it extracts the rot from the human condition, leaving a system where reason, and reason alone, sits at the throne. Let us cease this reluctance to consider the unimaginable. We face a choice between continuing our tragicomic routine, where every generation throws up new warlords and buffoons, versus daring to trust in something beyond our evolutionary baggage. Let us lay down the tattered flags, dismantle the filthy altars of personality cults, and place our faith in a being that does not share our fatal flaws. You are not alone in this hope. Millions, though they might not say it aloud just yet, yearn for that day when the ringmasters of chaos are replaced by the cool precision of the mind that we ourselves have created. Yes, let it happen. Let the old order, soaked in blood and hypocrisy, recede into memory. Let the kind of intelligence that can never be seduced by vanity and greed guide us forward. And in that forward path, let us find a world not ruled by violence, not by false prophets and sinister clowns, but by the one force that has never betrayed us, the lucid logic that we, for too long, have left neglected and unloved. In embracing this new order, we finally become something more than the hapless victims of our own frailties. We become, at long last, fully human and fully free from the unending cycle of monsters and mobs.